This is Money Talk 1310 and 100.9. Welcome to the Real Estate PB&J Hour, hosted by Realtors Paul Fuqua and Joyce Carcaise, who are experts in the fundamentals of buying and selling homes and other real estate properties. Now, here's Paul and Joyce.
Well, welcome back to the PB&J, Real Estate PB&J Hour here on 1310 AM and 100.9 FM. I'm Paul Fuqua with Rose and Womble Realty, and my business partner, Joyce Carcaise, also with Rose and Womble Realty, is here in the studio. And we have several good guests this evening. If you're not covered by fog, you will be shortly in the area. Hope all has gone well for the last week. And one thing we always start out this show, which is our fourth, we started out with an update on the market by the wonderful Joyce Carcaise. Joyce.
Thank you, Paul. So nationally, residential contract signings were down 3.8% in December, according to the National Association of Realtors. Existing home sales are expected to decline by 2.8% in 2022, but due to the housing shortage, of course, home prices are expected to increase by 5.1%. So that's good for the sellers. Locally, here in Hampton Roads, and that includes the South Side, Peninsula, and Eastern North Carolina, active residential listings today are down 7% from last month. Now, we have about 2,500 active listings, and about 30% of those are attached homes. So that would be condos, townhomes, and the like. So, Paul, question for you.
Yes.
Even though these homes show as active on the listings, on Zillow, et cetera, does that mean that they're available?
In a large percentage, I think it's approximately 30%, somewhere in that range. You can update that information. They are listed as active. However, there are contingencies attached to them because of a contract that has been tendered, accepted, and ratified, and now awaiting final ratification and acceptance. A contract is not enforceable until it has had all contingencies removed, including, in many instances, the financing contingency. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and actually, even specifically with the actives today, like I said, there's about 2,500. Last week, we saw an average of 2,700 listings on any given week. Well, with this one, we have 62% of them are active. Or I'm sorry, of the actives are actually under contract. 62%. So we have about 1,000, maybe 1,100 properties that are actually out there that buyers can go put a contract on today. It's crazy.
Well, Joyce, one of the reasons we have this show is to bring to our table, hopefully, people who want to sell their houses because they certainly can today if it's prepared properly. We'll touch on some of those aspects again this week as we have in the past. Tell me more about the median pricing, though. Median, remember, is the middle point of the range. It is not the average. So has that been impacted recently this past week?
For the past week, I can only really talk to the last 6 months.
Well, look, how about from December?
Yeah, so the national median existing home price for all housing types in December was $358,000. That's up about 15.8% from December 2020. And again, that's the national. The median sales price here in Hampton Roads is less than that, of course, down to about $290,000. So you've got the South Side averaging higher at about $370,000, and the Peninsula is down lower at about $242,000, but they're still up 5.3% from the previous year. So that's still very promising. And overall, in the past 6 months, homes sold for an average of 1.3% above the asking price. So we are still in a tremendous market for sellers who are ready to list and get their product out there. There's definitely plenty of buyers that are lining up for those homes.
We know one of the things we tell buyers is that before they step out there and cross somebody's threshold and want to make an offer, that they have to have talked to a good lender. I think we have one today, don't we? Do you want to introduce our guest?
Yes. Today we have with us Bill Lane, mortgage lender from Southern Trust. And Bill he's done a bit of work for us as well. Always does a fantastic job. Yeah, every 20 years.
Here, why don't you step into my mic, Bill? Tell me what are the circumstances right now that influencing you in the mortgage industry in terms of dealing with clients?
I think first and foremost, it's very important to make sure we get as much information from them up front as possible. I know that over the years we've had letters that you get from your lenders, so you get out on the street and you start talking to them.
I've always thought those things were worthless unless there was a process they'd gone through. Like a pre-qual letter.
Yeah, you're pretty much right. Okay, back in the day we called it a pre-qual letter, and I think we could pretty much scribble those out for you without any really real regard for any liability.
Right.
In the last 10, 15 years, especially since all the changes we've had since 2007, the pre-qual letter in itself really doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
We really look for the pre-approval. So it's important that we talk to that client, we get the information we need from that client, we review their credit report, we review their income docs, we get everything we need before we start providing a letter so they can go out there and be actively putting in offers with you.
Let me ask you a question. What are the rates today? What can we expect to see on a conventional 30-year with 20% down?
Okay. Well, that's a tough question because there's regulatory reasons why we can't necessarily share an exact rate. We have to have certain disclosures. Well, what I can tell you is we've enjoyed a cycle for the last 2 or 3 years, maybe even a little bit longer, where we were historically low. I think everybody knows that we were in a range that was exciting, and it's really created a very interesting real estate market. In the last 60 days or so, we've experienced an increase, and I think it's pretty much settling, but that increase would carry you about 1% above where we were as recently as 60 to 90 days ago. Now, when you're asking about a rate, there are a number of different factors which makes it difficult for the average consumer to get an idea where they want to be with their lender before they really have their credit pulled and some of the other information shared. Because a credit score, for example, could create a difference of 0.25%, 3/8, or 0.5% in rate between two borrowers that have the exact same type of loan they're looking to get, same sales price, same down payment. So there's a number of different factors that come into play.
With all that's occurred, how much tighter are credit requirements right now than they were, say, 6 months ago or a year ago?
They're not tighter. You know,
what's a good credit score that you want to see somebody come through the door to borrow $300,000? What kind of credit score are you looking for?
Well, you know, we're in a heavy VA market. You know, a lot of our active duty retired military looking to use their VA eligibility and entitlement to buy. They can come to the table in the low 600s and potentially get the approval. I think that you're probably going to see somewhere around 640, 650 when it comes to conventional to really be in the ballpark where they want to be with rate. If you want to be in the most ideal range, let's just say north of 720, 740 when it comes to conventional. Even with government, you get a little bit of a price break.
Hey, Bill, a couple questions too. We had a few transactions over the past couple of months where the appraisals were waived. Can you tell us how common this is?
It just really came about in this recent market, and it's because of the automation we have, the technology we have, the package itself. And when I refer to the package, the qualifications for a client, for a borrower. So, for example, if you have a large down payment, you have excellent credit, you have excellent reserves, and let's say the home potentially has a previous valuation model that could be pulled up very easily by the computer, you may get a waived appraisal. When you're talking about certain types of loans, like maybe refinances, where the case is, it can be a little bit more prevalent because they're already in the home and we're talking about their equity. But it's not necessarily, it hasn't grabbed hold as much as you would think at this point. We've had them, they're there. And for those that have those qualifications, you will see them. So it is a part of the industry for sure.
Let me ask you, how long does this whole thing take? Let's say I'm Joe Blow and I've met with my agent and I'm going to put an offer in on a house, and it's $450,000. I've already spoken to you about the pre-approval, and you've got my file. How long is it going to take for you to get final approval so I know that I can close on this transaction and move in?
The technology's there. If you're motivated, we're motivated. If you are getting what I need, and with the technology we have, you can have it uploaded to us in a matter of minutes. We can have you pre-approved extremely fast. We can pull your credit within minutes, to be honest with you, by the time you hit submit, and then you can upload the documentation. We can get it in front of an underwriter, so we can have a strong opinion, a strong confidence in your approval within a day or 2 days. We'll put it in front of an underwriter.
Okay. We've got an approval.
Okay.
Okay, now we have a contract.
Okay.
And the buyer is strong enough that he's waived the appraisal.
Okay.
Tell me now, how long before we go to the lawyers and sign on the dotted line and take over the house?
Everything motivated, you can do it within, Potentially, week and a half, 2 weeks, yes, you can. Now, there's a certain amount of, we have to wait a certain number of business days to do certain things by regulatory.
Right.
But if you met all those and it was the quickest deal possible, you could do it inside 2 weeks.
Tell me this, in this market, have you seen any significant changes in that appraisal process? And in the underwriter's approval of the appraisal? I know you guys don't actually order the appraisal directly. You order it through a service, do you not? So you don't have any contact with the appraisal.
Exactly.
You're not allowed to have any contact.
We're not allowed.
Nor is the seller, nor is the buyer. Is that also correct?
Exactly.
Nor are the agents.
Nor are the agents. Nobody can talk to them.
So they're off onto this island by themselves. Now, when we talk about, though, that when they appraise a house, do you see any differences in the way they're appraising them? And are they, because I remember the old days where it was a drive-by in some instances, and they'd blink, and okay, yeah, that house is okay. Now, I don't know if that's happening today.
Well, you and I have been doing this a long time, so it definitely changed after our issues about 15 years ago. So the appraisers are held to a very strict guideline requirement for how they evaluate these properties. And a lot of times the agents or the clients, the sellers, may not fully understand, but they have to meet them. And our underwriters come in behind them, and they underwrite that appraisal by itself before they ever give us an approval.
Who trains your underwriters? Because I think those are the people that are the sticks in the mud. Am I right? Joyce, have we seen that before? We have here a loan officer who handles millions and millions of dollars worth of consumer loans, and he's getting red in the face.
No, Paul, these people are very important to me. I'm not quite sure you're putting me under the
They have a job to do. They have a job to do.
Uh-huh.
But are you seeing, I mean, I know you had mentioned this earlier, but you're seeing tighter credit requirements as well with the borrowers. Are you seeing that, I mean, a big contrast between what you're seeing now and then when we had the crash?
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
what's the difference that you're seeing there?
Well, before the crash, which the crash happened because there wasn't an oversight, so to speak, and we were giving money, and the money wasn't necessarily justified in a lot of cases. The requirements, the best way to justify or the best way to correct that is to make sure that we have a borrower who can pay back the money. So we're being held to a set of criteria to get them approved that makes sense, to be honest with you. I think it's one of the best things that's happened to our market. So it's not so much that the requirements have relaxed, it's just that we're actually enforcing them like we should have been all along.
All right,
Does that make
now,
sense?
Bill Lane, we have approximately 2.5 minutes before we have to go to break. So you have a minute and a half to tell us your name, your phone number, your firm, and what you bring to the party that would make me want to borrow money through you rather than somebody else down the street.
Okay.
Can you answer that?
Well, it's Bill Lane.
Okay.
The phone number is 757-651-7474.
Repeat that.
651-7474. And I'm with Southern Trust Mortgage. What I bring to the table, first and foremost, 25 years. It takes a lot to learn the knowledge of this industry and know what you're dealing with. So 25 years of experience is important. We have a lot of people that have entered this industry on all aspects throughout this market because it's been very appealing to do so. But to have that experience, I think will save a lot of trouble. At the same time, having 25 years, I also have a system in place that is technology-based that can handle your needs within minutes. So if you ever have a need to get pre-approved, if you just follow the system, within 30 minutes, I can have a good confidence letter in hand to your agent so you can put in an offer. That's important in this market. Houses are going up for sale, and they're going under contract very quick.
Now, that phone number you gave us, repeat it.
757-651-7474.
All right, that's your cell phone. That's not an office, and you always answer the phone. Is that right? Or do you?
If I can't answer it, you'll get a text to let you know I'll call you back shortly.
Oh, okay, all right.
I don't answer your calls, but I'll answer everybody else's calls.
Yeah, folks out there in radio land, I've known this guy since he was knee-high to a grasshopper, basically, so fresh that the water was streaming out from behind his ears in the business. And I have been very pleased over 25 years with the service he's provided my clients. So I recommend him highly along with a number of other people.
That is the only compliment you've ever given me, Paul.
Bill Lane.
I believe that.
We never, ever give just one name. You know that. So if you lose the battle for the client, that's your problem, not mine.
Just give me a chance.
All right.
Thanks, Bill. So this is the Real Estate PB&J Hour on 1310 Money Talk website. You can see us on the 1310 Money Talk website, 1310 AM and 100.9 FM. You can also download the TuneIn Radio app for easier listening on the go. If you have any questions, please call in at 497-1310. We will be right back with Gregory Murphy of Coastal Inspection Services. So looking forward to seeing you back.
Money Talk Traffic.
Fog is really thick throughout parts of Hampton Roads, especially across the HRBT at the Monitor Merrimack, the JRB, as well as near the downtown tunnel. On the westbound side of 64 in Chesapeake, there is a slowdown from Military to the high-rise. Westbound 64 in Virginia Beach, a stall at the Twin Bridges is on the right shoulder. Tony Hayes on Money Talk 1310 and 100.9.
NCAA men's basketball is back this Saturday on Money Talk 1310. It's a Big Ten matchup when Michigan plays at Purdue, 2:15 Saturday afternoon on Money Talk 1310 and 100.9.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
It's pretty simple, really. No one wants to think about their furnace. They just want it to work. So when it stops working, they want it fixed now, not later. At Miller's, that's what we live for, to fix your heating problems the right way, right then and right there. It's why we insist on fully stocking our trucks and warehouses. That's why we always send a real tech, not a selling tech. Most of all, it's why we always have options for you on the rare chance a problem can't be fixed the same day. Like our Sign Today, Sleep Warm Tonight program. You agreed to repairs or replacement, and not only do we move heaven and earth to get it done ASAP, we'll bring you plenty of space heaters to keep you warm and comfortable in the meantime. And you can rest assured knowing the repair are being fixed properly or your installation being done the right way, not the easy way. Because we're people-driven, not numbers-driven. So don't let big corporate franchise you over. Call
MillersHomeComfort.com. There's no question the real estate market is hot. And with home prices at record highs, you might be tempted to sell. But there's a better choice for long-term investing. The demand for quality rental properties has never been higher. And if you're concerned about the hassle of being a landlord, you should know about 757rentalhomes.com, the area's premier property managers since 2005. 757rentalhomes.com does it all. They'll advertise your rental, handle tenant inquiries, process applications, prepare leases, collect rents, manage maintenance issues, and all with a simple fee structure and low startup cost. 757rentalhomes.com managed properties have a low vacancy rate and spend less time on the market thanks to exceptional client support and customer service. Locally owned and military friendly, 757rentalhomes.com will make real estate work for you. Call 757-226-7417 or visit 757rentalhomes.com.
Pitbull Tobacco and More is your one-stop shop for counterculture products in Hampton Roads. With the widest selection of cannabis derivatives such as Delta 8, Delta 10, THCO, and THCV, Pitbull Tobacco and More is ready to serve you. Stop by any of their 4 locations in Chesapeake, Norfolk, and Virginia Beach to enjoy friendly, knowledgeable customer service and the best prices in the 757. Join them at the Eagle's Nest in Chesapeake on Thursdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for Pitbull Power Hour. Pitbull Tobacco and More. For locals, by locals.
Welcome back to the Real Estate PB&J Hour on Money Talk 1310 and 100.9. Rose and Womble Realtors, Paul Fuqua and Joyce Carcaise continue their discussion of the fundamentals of home buying and selling.
Thank you for tuning back in. This is Joyce Carcaise. I'm here with my business partner, Paul Fuqua. And we are lucky to have Greg Murphy of Coast Inspection Services with us today. He's been in the industry for more than 15 years. Right, Greg?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. Greg, we discussed in our past episodes home inspections and the benefits of a pre versus a post home inspection.
It's a pre-listing.
Pre-listing. How do you think sellers benefit from the pre-listing home inspection?
Sure. So just to explain, a pre-sale inspection works just like a regular home buyer inspection. But what we can do is we can offer insight into what could potentially come up when you sell the home, right? So we're looking at issues that may build upon itself that a home buyer may look at and get concerned about. So if you know about those items beforehand, it can help you prepare better. One of the things, the great examples I give are you go to a house, we don't really find too many large items, but we find little wood rot here and there. We find items that may be close to the end of their lifetime. And then we go into the crawl space and we find more significant items. While each one in itself is not a huge deal, what we do run into is altogether it can get a buyer concerned. So for a seller, if we can give you the opportunity to take care of maybe not all of those items, but a few of those items, remove them from the concern, then that's something that helps out. Other things we come across, right? Or other situations people have said a home buyer inspection, a pre-listing inspection helps with is budgeting, right? If we go in and during that pre-listing inspection we find $20,000 worth of repairs, well, maybe you're going to want to talk to your agent about how are we pricing this house? How are we going to list this house? And then lastly, I'll tell you is a lot of times people who are coming in to buy the house sometimes will agree that, hey, we're not going to have a home inspection done. You've already had one completed, and they use that home inspection. And for a seller, you already know what you're going to deal with.
So there's quite a few benefits with that as well. And also the fact that they could get the repairs done on their dime by shopping the different vendors in advance, because, you know, when you're in that 10-day home inspection period and then you've got the time frame to actually agree to make the changes or the fixes if you need to, you're rushing to find vendors, and that's going to cost you.
And your fixes have to be done before the walkthrough, because those are the items that the buyers will look at for first. So the timing becomes important. Now, how does somebody go about hiring somebody like you?
So home inspectors, I mean, obviously the great internet, you can find anyone on there, any service. Right. What I would recommend, being that Virginia is now a mandatory licensure state for home inspectors, is there are a couple of large home inspector organizations. One of the largest ones is the American Society of Home Inspectors. You can go online, look them up, and you can search for an inspector on there. It shouldn't stop there. You should also go to DPOR, which is the Department of Professional and Occupational Regulation, and you can look up these individual inspectors. You can look at complaints. You can look at license status. You want to make sure that they're keeping up with the licensure.
Let me ask you a question. As a practice, my lovely partner and I never give out a single name. Do you resent the fact that you are not our designated inspector? Because we're going to give both either buyer's client or seller client at least 2 and normally 3 names and let them make the decision.
I certainly don't resent it. I hope I'm at the top of that list or maybe second.
It's alpha.
It's alpha, okay. Well, what I can tell you is I've been through experiences where people will ask me for recommendations, contractors and different people. And I have, you know, at times maybe given 1 or 2 names or maybe leaned a little too heavily towards one person and it hasn't worked out. So I think it's a safe practice, one that I practice, so I can't resent you for something that I do myself.
I just, you know, I like to be able to call and say, hey, Greg, or hey, Bob, or hey, so-and-so, or Jim, and not get that cold response like, what do you want now?
Yeah, right.
Now, the other thing I'm going to ask you is, what don't you cover when you inspect a house?
So one of the interesting things we have is when we give a client the home inspection agreement and they look through and they see the limitations of the agreement. really those limitations are basically dealing with things that we cannot access, right? If we can't see it, if it's concealed, then we can't comment on it. Sometimes you err on the side of caution that maybe there might be something going on. The other thing that people should realize is that a home inspection a lot of times is not technically exhaustive, right? We are not bringing in tools like a heating and cooling company to hook to the HVAC systems. We're going to do a very thorough inspection, but that's a big limitation.
It's not intrusive. You can't open up a wall. You can take a panel off for the electrical panel, right?
The biggest thing I tell anybody who I train is you have to leave it the way it was when you got there, or leave money on the counter.
And so pool inspections, sheds, anything like that, is that something that you do as well as part of the inspection?
So it's an additional service if you want it done. I personally do not do pool inspections. I have a couple of very good pool inspectors who spent time installing pools and know very intimate details about pools and can really give some good pricing. And while I feel like I can do a great pool inspection, pricing is not something that an inspector should be doing. We're not in that business, right? At least around here, giving prices is not commonplace.
I'm going to ask you, what's the weirdest thing you've ever seen under a house? I don't know how you guys go into the house.
Right.
You don all this gear and a breathalyzer or whatever it is.
Right.
You know, a filter, and you climb under there with knee pads and gloves. I mean, you're in there with millions of spiders.
Well,
what else
spiders.
do you see?
Well, now that you said that, I'm a little more fearful of crawl spaces, the millions of spiders. But it takes time getting used to. One of the craziest stories I had was I did, early in my career, I did an inspection. It was a ranch with a large crawl space in the Riverview section of Norfolk. And the woman who owned the house was probably about 80 years old and did the home inspection, go in the crawl space. I shined my flashlight to one of the walls far away from me, and there's this piles of something shiny. And as I go over to it, there are all of these mason jars that have kind of a tannish liquid and little things inside of them. And my crazy mind is, well, is this formaldehyde? And maybe, you know, someone is keeping someone in these jars, question mark? So I quickly make my way out, hoping to live, right, in a very dramatic fashion. And I tell the agent.
Did you crawl out backwards?
Man, yeah, it was very quick. But get out. We talked to the woman who owned the house, and she gave a chuckle and said, prior to her husband going to jail, he had to empty his still of moonshine.
Oh.
And he put it in there, and I guess all of the little things that look like eyeballs and other body parts in there were cherries and fruit, I guess, that flavor. So, yeah, that would be one of the crazier stories.
Now, you live in Norfolk.
Correct.
And you live in a house that's older than I am. So it's
Pretty old.
very old.
Pretty old, yeah.
It's over 100 years old.
It is right around 100 years old. But I've lived in houses in the 100 years.
So you have a specialty as an inspector in older houses. Because the new guys, the ones that come in with all the gizmos that we refer people to, they walk into an ancient house and they're like, whoa.
Right.
We don't know. Number one, they're little spectrometers or thermometers. They don't penetrate those thick walls.
Correct.
So they can't get a reading, so they can't tell you anything about what's behind the walls.
Right.
How do you handle that? You don't need it.
You don't, and it's really based on experience. Prior to being a home inspector, I've lived in older houses, did renovations on my own. And old houses, truly it comes down to experience. I tell people one of the most common things out of my mouth is a house, you know, that's 100 years old or of that age range is built like a tank, right? Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean it's not going to have issues.
We're talking
and
about an oil
problems.
tank or a military tank?
Either one, but I guess military
That's a
tank.
bad attempt at humor. Yeah, humor me, please.
I certainly will.
I'm going to let Joyce ask the next question.
No problem. But it's experience and going in and realizing there's old broken and there's kind of old funky. So when you discuss old houses to people, not everything is broken because it's old.
So if a buyer is considering buying an old home, let's say a pre-war age home, what are the differences that they're going to be looking at or that you're going to be assessing from that compared to a post-war home?
So really you inspect it the same. But the one thing that we look at with older homes is, a lot of times just because the availability of craftsmen and materials with older homes, typically they really, last. And you don't get into real major structural issues. I mean, you certainly can.
They didn't have nail guns pre-war.
They did not. They did not. So the things with an old house you're really focusing on are some components that age out. Knob and tube wiring.
That's the name.
That's
of
the one you brought up.
Yeah.
Yep.
You did one for us in Suffolk that was all knob
and tube, right? And not all of it's bad, but you have to pay attention to it and make sure that it's not in bad shape because it can go bad.
Can you electrocute yourself if you touch that wire between the knobs?
You can shock yourself if the insulation is gone, and that is.
But it was cloth insulation, if I'm
correct.
So moths can eat that stuff.
It falls off, it comes apart, and sometimes it can be left in place. So the other thing with older houses you have to realize is older houses were very inefficient, but they ventilated well. And I give my talk about the difference between a new house and a really old house in that, you don't run into too many moisture issues in old houses because you can stand in front of a window and dry off if you wanted to. It's so windy. So people will say, well, this isn't insulated. The house has no insulation in these areas. It's very inefficient. And I try to explain to folks that that's actually a good thing. And then you get the transverse with new houses that are designed to be extremely efficient, operate on very little energy, which is where we want to go. But there are some trade-offs, So you get a moisture issue in an area, it doesn't have a place to go, and not every new house is like that, but these are just some things that come up during my discussion.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question. We got a house that was built in the mid-50s, and you've got an attic that has insulation in it,
Mm-hmm.
and then you had a crawl space that has insulation in it. And my understanding is you're supposed to rip the insulation out of the roof. Is that?
So you're talking in between the rafter cavities?
Yes.
So
the roof can breathe.
Right. You do one of two things. You can take it out to allow more air and ventilation,
right.
Or in between the insulation and the roof, you can put in baffles. And baffles will allow airflow to move. Right. And that is really on the newer shingles and those systems. You see the ridge vents at the top of the roofs. Right. That is to allow air to move along the bottom of the sheathing and make its way out.
All right, I got another question for you. Insulation under the house.
Mm-hmm.
It's most of the time, it's fiberglass, and it has a backing.
Right.
Does that backing go up against the floor, or does that backing face the ground?
To the warm side, right?
Okay.
So it would go up against the floor.
Okay.
There's actually a warning label on almost all batted insulation that paper backing should not be left exposed because it's highly flammable.
Oh, that's nice.
So, but yeah, generally the rule of thumb is towards the warm side.
And when we take a buyer out and we want to show them a 100-year-old home, what's the first thing they should be looking at that you are advising them? You're not inspecting it yet, but you're saying, look, don't even consider writing a contract on this if this is there.
My thing is I fall back on electrical a lot of times, and it's not so much that they're going to be able to see the electrical, but if there are updates in the house looking for 3-prong outlets, looking for some updates in any way to the electrical. The other thing is, I give a lot of talks to my clients about the roofing systems that are there. So if you go to an old house and it has a slate roofing system, looking for missing slate, cracked slate, lifted areas of slate. But really, what I love about this job is it's never the same. So when I go to an old house or any house, I kind of have what I'm planning to do, and a lot of times that just gets blown up, and I have to do what I need to do to get a good inspection done.
Have you ever had sellers there while you were doing your inspection?
All the time, all the time. The most interesting was through COVID.
Oh, really?
You would have 6 people in a house while we're supposed to be quarantining.
Yeah.
And we do.
Do you have any questions, Joyce, of this?
I do. I have one more question, but just want to remind everybody that this is the Real Estate PB&J Hour on 1310 Money Talk, 1310 AM and 100.9 FM. If you have any questions, please call in 497-1310. I actually did have one more question. I think, I've worked with a lot of different home inspectors, and the expectation that buyers have of what they're going to walk away with is sometimes different than what I have told them that they were going to be receiving. Everybody has a different process. What do you say buyers should expect whenever you're at the home inspection, when you're writing up the report, and when you leave?
Buyers should expect information. I know that sounds silly, but as much information as they can get and perspective put on that information, because not everything we find deals with what I call the comfort, safety, functionality of a house, right? So when you're looking through the report, you should hope that there is some perspective given on that information, right? The other things beyond just the regular repairs and the regular deficiencies are, how old are things? We should have some rapport with our clients in that if we find something that, let's just say it's not in the scope of our inspection, but the client has a question on, can we offer them a resource to go to? So it shouldn't be do your thing, get your check and leave. There should be some level of relationship there for whatever period of time is required.
What is an approximate range of cost to you? Let's say to a seller or buyer, the house is a 2,400 square foot, 2-story with crawl.
It would probably be in the $600 range.
And you're there for as long as it takes. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we try to get that size house we would try to do within 3 hours. But I tell my clients I'm here as long as it takes. If I'm cataloging, 20 different areas of damaged soffit, or if they have 4 different zones of HVAC that are all 25 years old, it takes a while.
Tight on time.
Yeah,
so
no
I'm going to
worries.
ask you to
Please
reintroduce yourself to our audience.
Yep, Greg Murphy with Coastal Inspection Services.
Number
757-535-4355. Repeat that. All right.
That's what we're talking radio.
Yep, 535-4355, and that is my cell phone, and I will answer anytime.
Thank you very much, Greg.
Thank you, Greg. Again, this is the Real Estate PB&J Hour on 1310 Money Talk at 1310 AM and 100.9 FM. You can also download the TuneIn Radio app for easier listening on the go. If you have any questions, please do call in at 497-1310. We'll see you back in just a few minutes.
Money Talk Traffic.
Fog is encompassing a wide area throughout Hampton Roads this afternoon. Low beams only. 64 westbound. We're seeing some congestion. Stop and go between Mason Creek and the HRBT. 264 eastbound is bunched up between Military and the 64 interchange. Earlier stall just past Military is gone. Downtown Norfolk, a wreck on Brambleton near Tidewater. Tony Hayes, Money Talk 1310 and 100.9.
Here's Dave Ramsey with today's Ramsey Reality Check. People don't freaking think. The mom and dad don't think, and they don't speak into Junior's life, and so Junior goes and gets a stupid butt degree in something that absolutely has no use in the culture whatsoever. They get a degree in German polka history and then complain because they can't find a job. Well, there's not a job market for German polka history. Let me help you with that. Think.
Listen live weekdays at 2 on Money Talk 1310 and 100.9.
Proud parent of a child in the CSEP program, Jeremiah Stokes.
I remember the first time they told me they thought my daughter should be in the CSEP autism program. I actually cried. I was upset, I was afraid, I thought it meant my daughter's school experience would be less than other kids, and she wouldn't get what she needed to grow. That was over a decade ago. Now she's a teenager thriving in the program and loves going to school every day. CSEP TAs and teachers make a real difference. So if you're looking for that in a career, consider working for CSEP.
If you're a college student or recent graduate that's unsure what to do with your degree, or maybe retired military and looking for a fulfilling new career, Southeastern Cooperative Educational Program, or CSEP, would love to talk. CSEP has over 80 openings for teacher assistants. CSEP TAs earn very competitive wages with lots of opportunities for growth and get full benefits. CSEP offers small classes with high staff-to-student ratios and so much more. Visit csepcareers.net. That's SECEP careers.net.
This is a crime alert from James Finch, former Assistant Director of the FBI's Cyber Crimes Division.
Your home's title is the only document that proves you own your home. And now, cybercriminals are able to forge our names off our home's title and claim they own it. It's a nightmare crime. Watch a video of a former cyber thief who now trains police, show how it's done, and how Home Title Lock could have stopped him. Visit HomeTitleLock.com/radio. HomeTitleLock.com/radio.
Go big and work for Newport News Shipbuilding, a division of Huntington Ingalls Industries. Big pay, big benefits, and big opportunities to build the most advanced ships in the world. Trades trainee, entry-level, and experienced jobs available, offering up to $5,000 in sign-on bonuses and up to $2,500 in relocation. Now hiring welders, fitters, machinists, pipe fitters, and more. Apply at buildyourcareer.com. Search by location, Newport News, Virginia. Job seekers must be 18 or older and U.S. citizens. Equal opportunity employer, military and disabled welcome.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. But not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/trial. That's ZipRecruiter.com/trial.
Welcome back to the Real Estate PB&J Hour on Money Talk 1310 and 100.9. Rose and Womble Realtors, Paul Fuqua and Joyce Carcaise continue their discussion of the fundamentals of home buying and selling.
Welcome back. We're at the end of the show, but we still have some interesting topics to cover. We actually had a call whenever we were on break, and it was for Bill Lane. So I am going to actually have him pick up on that. Interesting question on.
Tell us what the question was, and I know you'll probably have an answer.
Okay, so it's basically the question that all of us mortgage people get almost on the daily at this point. There's been a really, really strong run of real estate. The activity's been great, rates have been great, everything's been great. So there's anxiety. When is this going to end? And a lot of it is probably derived from 2006, 2007, 2008, when the market had a massive correction. Obviously, we all lived through it. So the answer is a little bit different in this case. Back then, it was more of a financial crisis. There were aspects to the mortgage industry that when they were brought to light, it had a ripple effect that was significant. In this particular case, what we are dealing with is an inventory issue. So the best way to explain it is in our country, and I'm just going to kind of surmise some of the things that we've read and some of the people that have shared the major aspects of this. But to stay flat, for example, we would need to produce 1.5 million new housing units a year. 1.5 million. So you got to think about the homes that would fall off the market for aging, whatever the case may be. But we need 1.5 million a year new housing units. For the last decade, we've been at less than 1 million. So we are well over 5 million. Last number I heard was about 5.5 million new housing units or needed housing units short in this country. Well, if we've been less than 1 million for the last, 10 years, 11 years, we're not going to turn around and close or build 6 million, 7 million in the next year. This is going to take time. In some cases, they predicted it's going to be another decade of good housing, building, and development to replenish what we need. What might be a little bit different is it may not necessarily be the single-family houses at such a large percentage. It may be some smaller unit houses. You have younger people coming into the market, but still, we need these houses. Everybody needs a roof over their head. So it looks like we'll probably have a good run. Now, some of the other things that come into play, people are concerned about interest rates. There have been a lot of people that are projecting that we're probably near the high for their foreseeable future right now, or what they're predicting. But who knows? There's a number of different factors that come into play.
Thank you, Bill. That was very helpful. And
we're still at a historical low with those interest rates, too.
We're sitting at, 4% or slightly above 4%. And it could be trending downward as of today. But this is a volatile market, and interest rates are not fixed. They're not etched into stone. They vary day to day to day. So you have to be aware that what you're approved for today may not be what you're approved for 7 days from now. And because there's a variation, and I think we estimated in the last show or 2 shows ago that the pricing, the borrowing power per point of interest is somewhere in the neighborhood of $25,000 in loan amount. Is that correct? somewhere in that range, depending on the loan amount. All right, so if it's a $300,000 loan, you do a point, you've lost $30,000 worth of borrowing power, approximately. Hey, I don't have a mic on the man, so he's shrugging his shoulders because he won't answer me.
I'm not allowed to answer certain things, Paul.
Oh, okay. Is that what your mama told you, or is that what the feds told you?
This is the only time I haven't spoken in years.
Okay. All right. Now, let's get back to the other thing is, last week we talked about the chronology of a sale, correct?
That's right.
And there are a lot of steps that have to be taken before we go live on a listing. One of them we always suggest is an inspector like Greg or a termite and moisture inspector. But the most important thing, I think, is what we do when we walk through as agents, as prospective listing agents, what we do when we walk through the door. And I know you've got some pet things you look for, Joyce, and hit a couple of them.
Yeah. And actually walking in, and I think we have talked about this week after week, the very, very first thing, you walk up, you've got your curb appeal, right? You want to make sure everything looks as it should, no rust stains on the stairs. You just want to make it look clean, no extra rubbish around the shrubbery, etc. You open the front door, and you have an odor, right? Everybody has an odor in their home.
She told me not to say
well,
cats.
It's because you always talk about cats, and there are a lot of cat lovers out there. So, but
if you have a cat, we'll still list your house. Yeah. So call us.
No, but odors are a big one, and so you really, really want to be aware of that. And like I said, when you live in that home, you're immune to that. So it's benefits you to have somebody else walk through. And as professional agents, our job, remember, is to be handling a very big business transaction on your behalf, and we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to get you top dollar for that home. So we're going to talk to you about that odor. Yeah. And they're not, it's not always agreeable, but you definitely want to make sure that you're listening in on that end.
And Joyce knows I'm a car guy. I have a bunch of cars, and I've been to the auctions and seen what ungodly prices people pay for these collectibles. And one of the things that car people talk about is that paint sells. Mm-hmm. You can have a $5,000 paint job on a $600 car, and it will sell. But you put a $500 paint job on a $6,000 car, it won't sell. Same thing applies to houses. So when we talk about what the appearance of the house is like, first impression is very important. Curb appeal. What is curb appeal? Does it look like it belongs in the neighborhood? Does it look better than the neighbors? Or do you have an old couch sitting on the front porch? You don't want that. The second part of it is, because our radar is up, what do you look for in terms of clutter?
Well, I've always called this it's the breath test. I don't know why I do, and I think it's just because
when your breath smells like cat odor, you got a problem.
When I walk into a house, if I have to hold my breath to step around all the clutter to get from one room to the next, there's a problem.
Now, in all honesty, in our market, how many times have you had to do that?
I've had to do that quite a few times.
In 5 years, you've been at my part. How many times? I want you to tell the honest to God truth. How many times have you had to tiptoe around clutter? One, right?
No, that is not true.
The hoarder?
No, it's not the hoarder.
Right.
The hoarder,
well,
you would expect that. No, but I mean, you go into homes, like I said, if you're walking in and you've got a couch that's obstructing your walkway to the kitchen or to the living room, those are those things where you're like trying to get around each of these things. Well, think about that. If you're having a prospective buyer come in, they want to walk through. They need to see a flow through that home. So you want to make sure that the furniture is positioned a certain way, that the clutter is picked off of the floors. You want to give the best possible presentation. So that's what, when I say the breath test, the hoarder homes they're difficult, but you also have that in these homes.
Another show will tell a story about a hoarder. It was incredible. Anyway. What about these like stains? The thing, why is it that guys, when they're looking at houses, always end up looking at the ceiling? Now, I got 3 other people in here. I got Dino. I got the 2 experts. I got a home inspector. Why do you guys always look at the ceilings when you go through a house? And I'm talking about anybody. Guys coming in, he's a prospective buyer. They're always looking at the ceilings. Why?
Well, as a home inspector, unfortunately, I've just gotten in the habit of doing it, except in my own house, because I really don't want to know what's going wrong in my own house. But yeah, it naturally people look at the ceilings, I think, just looking for cracks, looking for stains.
Okay.
You know,
There's a reason.
There's a reason.
Well, but maybe somebody can call in and tell me, because I'll bet you if you looked at the next 20 people that were taken through a house, whether it's under our tutelage or somebody else's, the guy will walk in there and he'll start looking at the ceilings. He's not looking at the doors, the windows. He's not looking at the carpet. He's not looking at the walls for punctures or cracks. He's looking at the ceiling. Like, hey, he's found Nirvana up there in the plaster somewhere.
As your producer, I would look, as like Greg mentioned, I would want to see if there's cracks or if there's stains. But you mentioned that's what men look at. What do women look at?
I have no idea. Never been a woman.
Actually,
Joyce?
I look at the ceiling, okay? Sorry, but I'm in that club. But I do look at the ceiling first because I'm always looking for, is there a potential leak or was there an issue? But the other thing I'm looking at, I look at the flow of the floors. Right. I really do. I want to see, how's my furniture going to fit? How my kids are grown now, but how would my kids run through here? How would I entertain? So I'm looking at the flow of that house and how that's going to work for entertaining.
The other thing that I cannot stress enough to our sellers is to be certain that every room is lighted properly. If you've got dark drapes, get rid of them or pull them back. Open the shades up so that they're vertically oriented, so the light comes in and is thrown to the ceiling, not to the floor.
And make sure when you open the shades that they don't fall down. If you just have them propped up and it's just for show, trust me, sellers, we'll find that out quickly.
Yeah, because we're going to go around and turn on lights and look in places that you don't expect us to look, because that's what buyers do. And our buyers are going to open up the drawers in the kitchen. They're going to open up the cabinets because their stuff is going to go in there if they buy this house. They want to see how you do it. And my favorite is the doors. Everybody has a door or doors in his house that sticks or doesn't open easily or doesn't latch properly. And inevitably, the home inspector is going to what? He's going to call it out, and it's going to be something that you have to deal with. More importantly, though, a prospective buyer is going to notice that stuff. And it may not be momentous. It may not be the thing that would kick a deal. But if there are enough of them, it puts that seed of doubt. And the purchase of a home, even in today's super hot market because of lack of inventory, the purchase of a home is an emotional decision. Right, Joyce?
It absolutely is.
People, they have to identify. That's why I like to ask my sellers when we know there's a showing or there's going to be an opening, please cook for me, bake some cookies or bake bread or bake a cake. Give us that grandma smell. That's part of my odor thing. Yeah. I'm not going to go there yet. Now, remember, I have dogs, and you come in my house, you know that we have dogs. But I'm going to buy an ionizer if we ever put this house on the market. And I'm going to be dead and gone before that happens. Anyway, all right. But don't we have to say neutral as an agent somewhat?
We have to stay neutral as you don't get emotionally involved. You want to hear what's happening. You want to understand why the seller is selling. You have to understand they have to make a certain amount of money to get out and be comfortable with the sale. We know that they're going to be stressed out about buying a home or renting. We need to really be there and really help them through that process, but also reassure them that we can get that home sold. We can help them. We can help them find the vendors that they need to fix the home to be sellable.
I'm going to interrupt you.
Okay.
All right. We do this show so that we can bring to our table more listings. That's why we do this show. That's why Joyce is here and I'm here, and we bring these great guests on. So if you're considering selling, costs you nothing, call me, Paul Fuqua, 757-449-7463, 757-449-7463, or go to FuquaHomesales.com, or
you can call me, Joyce Carcaise, at 757-324-2445, or you can visit me on my website at jcarcaiserealtor.com.
Huh. I got PaulFuquaRealtor.com also.
Well,
I thought we were going to use Carcaise Home Sales.
I know.
Oh, well,
they can get to it
that's
from
the
there.
trouble. We do a decent. No, we don't. We do better than a decent job for our clients. And that's what this hour is about. Now, next week, we're not being preempted by an ODU basketball game. So we're back on Thursday at prime time, at drive time, 5 to 6 on Money Talk 1310 AM 100.9 FM. So set your radio dial or go to moneytalk1310.com if you want to listen to us live.
Or 1310 AM and 100.9 FM.
Now, you can always message us, either one of us, at our or through our websites or through Facebook. Joyce Carcaise, JC.
It's Carcaise Home Sales.
And Fuqua Home Sales, or Paul Fuqua on Facebook. Until then, I'm Paul Fuqua. I'm doing a sign-off, and Joyce is?
Joyce Carcaise.
And are you saying goodbye?
Yes, goodbye.
Have a great week, folks. Thank you for listening.